In life, challenges are inevitable. Whether it's failure, rejection, stress, or fear, every person will encounter storms. But what separates those who rise from those who fall isn't luck, talent, or background, it's the strength of the mind. And that strength doesn't come from birth. It comes from discipline, from training, from educating your mind every single day. You see, the mind is like a muscle. If you don't train it, it weakens. But when you feed it the right thoughts, the right beliefs, and the right focus, it becomes your most powerful ally. When life hits you hard, an educated mind doesn't collapse. It adapts. It finds a way forward, even when the odds say there's none. To educate your mind is to take full control of how you think, how you respond, and how you grow. It's about teaching yourself to see opportunity where others see obstacles, to stay calm when others panic, to persist when others quit. It's about building a mindset so strong, no failure, no fear, no external force can defeat it. Let's explore how to educate your mind to overcome anything, because the battle is won in the mind long before it's won in the world. Everything you experience, your thoughts, emotions, decisions, and actions, starts in the mind. If your thinking is chaotic, so will your results be. Educating your mind means rewiring the way you perceive challenges, training your brain to focus on solutions rather than problems. When your mind is sharp and focused, no situation feels impossible. Resilience doesn't appear out of nowhere. It grows from knowledge, knowing how others overcame hardship, understanding strategies for mental toughness, and gaining tools to cope with adversity. The more you educate yourself through books, mentors, and experiences, the better equipped your mind is to bounce back from anything life throws at you. Discipline isn't just about doing hard things. It's about building the capacity to keep going when the excitement fades. By educating your mind to resist distractions, delay gratification, and push through discomfort, you develop a level of mental strength that makes you unshakable under pressure. Discipline trains the mind to lead, not follow. An educated mind is a self-aware mind. It observes its own patterns, emotional triggers, and limitations without judgment. Self-awareness allows you to step outside of reactive behavior and choose intentional responses. You stop being a slave to emotion and start becoming the master of your actions. Educating your mind isn't only about logic and knowledge, it's also about understanding your emotions. Emotional intelligence empowers you to regulate your feelings, empathize with others, and stay centered during chaos. With emotional control, you don't react to life. You respond with purpose, with calm, and with clarity. One of the greatest shifts an educated mind makes is redefining failure. It no longer sees it as something to avoid, but something to learn from. Each failure becomes feedback. Each setback becomes a step up. The mind that is trained to extract wisdom from mistakes will always find a way to rise stronger. Just like the body needs good nutrition, the mind needs good input. What you read, watch, and listen to shapes how you think. If you constantly feed your mind with negativity, it will drain your strength. But if you surround yourself with growth, inspiration, and learning, you empower yourself to think bigger, act bolder, and overcome faster. No education of the mind is complete without belief. You must believe that you have the power to change, to grow, and to overcome. Belief is not blind hope. It's the inner conviction that even when it's hard, even when you're tired, you are capable. And once your mind believes something, your life starts to reflect it. Everything in life begins with a thought. Every decision you make, every action you take, and every habit you form starts in the mind. It's not your circumstances, your background, or even your talent that ultimately shapes your reality. It's how your mind interprets and responds to all of it. That's why the mind is often called the command center of life. Just as a pilot navigates an aircraft from the cockpit, your thoughts navigate the course of your life. If that cockpit is filled with confusion, fear, and self-doubt, you're bound to crash. But if it's filled with clarity, confidence, and control, you can soar even through storms. When you train and educate your mind, you gain control over your internal world, and that gives you tremendous power over your external world. Life won't always go your way. You'll face rejection, setbacks, failure, and sometimes even betrayal. But an educated mind doesn't crumble in chaos, it becomes more focused. It doesn't run from pain, it learns from it. A well-trained mind knows how to shift from fear to strategy, from panic to purpose, and from hopelessness to possibility. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. If your thoughts are weak, scattered, and negative, your life will reflect confusion and limitation. But if your mind is sharp, disciplined, and filled with intention, it becomes the engine that drives transformation in every area: your career, your relationships, your health, and your goals. The people who overcome the most in life aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who learned how to master their minds. They understood that power, peace, and progress all begin inside. Resilience is often seen as an emotional or mental strength we're either born with or not, but that's a misconception. True resilience isn't some rare gift possessed by a lucky few. It's a skill that is built, and its foundation is knowledge. The more you learn, the stronger your mind becomes. When you educate yourself through reading, reflection, experience, and observation, you give your mind a broader perspective and a deeper toolkit to deal with adversity. Knowledge transforms how you perceive hardship. A person who lacks knowledge may see a setback as a dead end, but someone who has studied stories of great leaders, learned strategies for overcoming obstacles, or understood how growth works will see the same setback as a setup for a breakthrough. They won't panic because their mind is equipped. They won't collapse because they've trained themselves to interpret adversity through the lens of learning rather than defeat. When life throws challenges your way, knowledge acts like armor. It gives you context, confidence, and clarity. For example, if you've read about people who've gone through worse and emerged victorious, your problems begin to feel smaller and more manageable. When you study how to manage stress, communicate effectively, or stay calm under pressure, you're no longer just reacting, you're responding with intelligence and intentionality. The more you feed your mind with wisdom, the less you fall victim to fear. Information becomes preparation. Preparation builds confidence, and confidence makes you resilient. You start to understand patterns, anticipate challenges, and adapt rather than break. That's why people who are committed to lifelong learning tend to recover faster, think clearer, and rise stronger than those who let their minds stagnate. They aren't just tough, they're trained. Discipline is often misunderstood as just forcing yourself to do hard things, but in reality, it is the foundation upon which mental endurance is built. It's the consistent training of your mind to follow through, not just when you're motivated, but especially when you're not. Motivation can be fleeting. It comes and goes with emotions, moods, and circumstances. But discipline stays. It creates a structure for your mind to operate in even when everything around you is chaotic. Mental endurance is the ability to persist in the face of fatigue, frustration, and repeated failure. And that endurance doesn't show up on its own. It's built day by day through small decisions, quiet sacrifices, and the repeated choice to do what's necessary over what's easy. When you train your mind through discipline, you're not just building habits. You're building a mindset that thrives under pressure. You're teaching yourself that discomfort is not a threat, but a signal for growth. For example, when you choose to wake up early to study, exercise, or work on your goals instead of sleeping in, you're telling your mind that what matters most is progress, not pleasure. When you avoid distractions, stay committed to your priorities, and hold yourself accountable even when no one is watching, you're laying down the mental wiring of resilience. Every time you choose structure over chaos, consistency over convenience, and focus over entertainment, your mind becomes more capable of handling adversity without crumbling. Discipline also gives your thoughts direction. Without it, the mind becomes scattered, jumping from one impulse to the next, easily overwhelmed and unfocused. But when you live with discipline, you create mental order. You're not tossed around by external pressures or emotional turbulence. You're anchored by your internal standards. You begin to develop an inner toughness that doesn't waver, even when things get hard. That's the power of mental endurance, and it begins with the practice of discipline. Self-awareness is one of the most powerful traits a person can develop, yet it's often overlooked in conversations about success and mental strength. To educate your mind effectively, you must first understand it, how it works, how it reacts, and how it interprets the world around you. Self-awareness is the conscious ability to observe your own thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and patterns without judgment. It's like stepping outside of yourself and watching your mind at work. And in that observation lies power. Why is self-awareness so crucial? Because you can't change what you don't recognize. Many people live on autopilot, reacting emotionally, making impulsive decisions, repeating unproductive habits, and they don't even realize it. But the person who is self-aware begins to see the internal causes behind external struggles. They catch themselves before they spiral. They understand why certain situations trigger frustration, fear, or procrastination, and instead of being controlled by those reactions, they learn how to manage them. Mastery, whether it's over your goals, your relationships, or your inner peace, starts by mastering your mind, and mastery of the mind requires awareness of how it behaves. Self-awareness allows you to notice the negative self-talk before it becomes belief, to recognize fear before it becomes avoidance, to spot ego before it creates conflict. This mental observation creates space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies your freedom to choose. That's where emotional maturity is born. When you begin to live with self-awareness, your entire approach to life transforms. You become more intentional with your time, more thoughtful in your decisions, and more connected to your values. You don't just move through life blindly. You move with purpose. You begin to take responsibility for your inner world, which is the first step toward controlling your outer world. You stop blaming circumstances and start adjusting your mindset. Educating your mind without developing self-awareness is like trying to steer a ship with no compass. But once you become deeply aware of your strengths, your blind spots, your triggers, and your growth areas, you can direct your life with clarity and confidence. When it comes to overcoming obstacles in life, many people focus on intelligence, talent, or strategy, but one of the most overlooked and underestimated tools is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, or EC, is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage not only your own emotions, but also the emotions of others. It's not just about being a calm or a kind. It's about developing inner control that allows you to remain grounded in the middle of emotional storms. Educating your mind means learning to work with your emotions, not against them. Emotions are not the enemy. They are signals, powerful indicators of what matters to us, what hurts us, and what drives us. But when you lack emotional intelligence, those signals become overwhelming. You lash out in anger, withdraw in fear, or fall into hopelessness without knowing why. On the other hand, a mind trained in emotional intelligence knows how to pause, reflect, and respond with wisdom rather than impulse. Think of emotional intelligence as the internal thermostat of your life. Without it, your emotions control you. You get triggered easily, relationships suffer, focus collapses, and decision-making becomes cloudy. But when you develop EQ, you begin to recognize your emotional patterns. You notice when stress is building. You identify the roots of your anxiety. You catch yourself before your anger takes over, and instead of reacting destructively, you choose constructive responses. Moreover, emotional intelligence extends beyond your inner world. It impacts how you connect with others. A person with high EQC knows how to empathize, listen, and build strong relationships. They can diffuse conflict, encourage collaboration, and inspire trust, all critical skills for both personal and professional growth. But these outward skills begin inward, with your ability to regulate your own emotional landscape. Educating your mind is incomplete if you ignore the emotional dimension. Logic and reasoning are important, but your emotional responses shape your behavior just as much, if not more. Emotional intelligence bridges that gap. It brings balance to your inner world, giving you the tools to face adversity without being broken by it, to lead without dominating, and to live with a centered, focused state of being even when the world around you is chaotic. One of the most transformative mental shifts you can make is changing the way you see failure. In a society that glorifies perfection and instant success, failure is often treated like a permanent stain, something to avoid, something shameful. But an educated mind doesn't fall into that trap. It understands that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a necessary part of the journey toward it. Failure is not a dead end. It's a detour, a redirection, a feedback system that teaches you what doesn't work so you can move closer to what does. When you develop your mind to see failure as a lesson rather than a life sentence, you take away its power to paralyze you. You no longer define yourself by the moments you fell short. Instead, you analyze them, learn from them, and use them as stepping stones. Every great innovator, leader, athlete, and creator has failed repeatedly. But the reason they succeeded is that they trained their minds not to quit at the first sign of struggle. They saw failure as a message, not a verdict. Failure reveals your weaknesses, but not to shame you. It does so to sharpen you. It exposes what needs improvement, what needs attention, and what needs changing. The untrained mind takes failure personally. It internalizes it and begins to believe, I am not good enough. But the educated mind separates identity from experience. It understands this didn't work. I need to try a new approach. That distinction is what allows growth to happen. This mindset requires emotional resilience and humility. It demands that you let go of ego and embrace discomfort. It's not easy to fail, but it becomes powerful when you refuse to be defined by it. Instead of hiding from your mistakes, you examine them with curiosity. You ask, what can I learn? What can I change? How can I do better next time? That self-reflection turns failure into a personal coach instead of a lifelong critic. Failure also cultivates grit. The more you experience it and grow from it, the more mentally tough you become. You realize that failure didn't destroy you. It refined you. It refined you. It taught you patience, perseverance, and creativity. It trained your mind to keep moving, even when the path ahead is uncertain. Just as the body requires proper nutrition to function at its best, the mind also depends on what you feed it. If you consistently consume negativity, chaos, and mental junk food, whether it's toxic media, gossip, complaints, or fear-based thinking, your mind will mirror that input. It becomes sluggish, reactive, easily distracted, and filled with self-doubt. But when you deliberately feed your mind with empowering, educational, and purposeful content, you begin to shape a mindset that is sharp, stable, and solution-focused. The quality of your mental input directly influences the quality of your life. What you read, watch, listen to, and talk about becomes the foundation of your inner dialogue. If you expose yourself daily to messages of strength, growth, discipline, and resilience, you begin to absorb those values as your own. Your beliefs begin to change. Your confidence increases. Your ability to handle adversity improves because your internal environment is now wired to support growth instead of fear. Feeding your mind doesn't just mean formal education, it means being intentional about what surrounds you. The books you read, the podcasts you tune into, the people you engage with, the conversations you allow into your space, all of these are inputs. If you are always surrounded by negativity, comparison, or criticism, it will affect your mindset even if you try to resist it. But if you fill your environment with inspiration, challenges, and perspectives that push you to grow, your mind evolves into a powerful, focused instrument. This process is not passive. You have to protect your mental diet the same way you protect your physical one. You wouldn't eat spoiled food every day and expect to be healthy. Likewise, you can't feed your mind garbage and expect it to stay focused, fearless, and energized. Start being selective. Choose knowledge over noise. Choose truth over trends. Choose growth over trends. Choose growth over gossip. Every piece of content you consume is either helping your mind grow stronger or making it weaker. An educated and resilient mind is a result of what you consistently feed it. Oh. When you make it a habit to expose yourself to content that challenges your thinking, broadens your horizons, and inspires focused action, your mind becomes your greatest asset. It becomes the engine that drives you through adversity, the compass that helps you navigate uncertainty, and the shield that protects you from mental defeat. No matter how much knowledge you acquire, how much discipline you develop, or how many tools you gather, none of it will have power unless it is backed by belief. Belief is the invisible force that activates everything you've trained your mind for. It is the fuel that turns potential into action, vision into achievement, and struggle into breakthrough. Without belief, even the most educated and prepared mind will hesitate, retreat, or self-sabotage. But with belief, even an uncertain step can lead to extraordinary results. Belief is not blind optimism or wishful thinking. It is a deliberate inner conviction that says, I am capable, I am resilient, and I will rise no matter what. It's the voice that speaks louder than doubt, louder than fear, and louder than the opinions of others. When you educate your mind to believe in your ability to overcome, your behavior changes. You begin to take risks, push boundaries, and stay committed even when the journey gets tough. Belief becomes your internal source of power, especially in moments when there's no external encouragement. An untrained or doubting mind will give up at the first sign of resistance. It will shrink under pressure, question its worth, and stay trapped in comfort zones. But a mind that is rooted in strong belief becomes unshakable. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It moves forward because it trusts in its own growth. Belief is what gives you the courage to act while you're still learning, to speak while you're still uncertain, and to stand back up after failure. This belief must be cultivated deliberately. It grows from your daily habits, the promises you keep to yourself, the people you surround yourself with, and the way you talk to yourself when no one is listening. Every small victory you acknowledge reinforces belief. Every challenge you overcome, no matter how small, becomes evidence that you can rise again. And the more your belief grows, the more your mind becomes a powerful force of endurance, creativity, and unstoppable momentum. Belief also shapes your perception of possibility. When you believe something is achievable, your brain begins searching for ways to make it happen. It becomes solution-oriented instead of problem-focused. It becomes flexible in strategy but fixed in purpose. You start seeing limitations as puzzles, not prisons. This shift in mindset unlocks levels of persistence and courage that would otherwise lie dormant. So, if you truly want to overcome anything in life, don't just wait for your circumstances to change. Change your mind. Train it, educate it, feed it, discipline it. Because once your mind is strong, no obstacle can overpower you. Once your mindset is right, your path becomes clear. Challenges will still come, but you won't be the same person facing them. You'll be sharper, wiser, stronger. Remember this, you can't control everything that happens around you, but you can control everything that happens within you. Educate your mind, and you empower your life.